Your brain can make you check your phone even when you already know there's nothing new on it. You unlock it, no messages, no notifications, nothing. So you lock it again, and somehow 30 seconds later, you're checking it again. That isn't just bad self-control. Your brain has learned that checking might lead to something rewarding. And the weird part is, you don't need to actually receive anything for the habit to keep going. Because sometimes you're not checking your phone for a notification. You're checking it for the possibility of one. And that tiny difference explains a lot. Think about how ridiculous this looks from the outside. You pick up your phone while waiting for water to boil, check Instagram, nothing interesting, close it. 2 minutes later, you unlock your phone again. You weren't expecting a message. Nobody told you they'd text. There wasn't an emergency. You just checked. And sometimes you don't even remember deciding to do it. Your hand reaches for your pocket almost automatically. It's like your brain has created a tiny employee whose entire job is to ask, anything happen yet?
No, I'll check again in 12 seconds. And this is where psychology gets interesting, because your phone isn't only giving you information, it's training your brain to look for uncertainty. Your brain is extremely sensitive to unpredictable rewards. If something happens every single time, you quickly stop caring. But if something happens sometimes, your attention becomes much harder to pull away. Think about notifications. One time, your phone is completely silent. Another time, you check it and there's a funny message from a friend. Another time, someone liked your post. Another time, you get an email you've been waiting for. Another time, nothing. The reward isn't guaranteed, and that's exactly what makes checking so compelling. Your brain doesn't think, there will definitely be something here. It thinks, maybe. And maybe is surprisingly powerful. You don't need a reward every time. You just need enough uncertainty for your brain to keep thinking, check again. But there's another reason you keep doing it. Sometimes the phone isn't giving you something. It's taking something away. Boredom. You're standing in line. Your food is in the microwave. Your computer is loading. You're sitting on your bed. There's a tiny gap in your attention. And your brain hates empty space. So your hand reaches for the easiest source of stimulation available. Your phone. One swipe, one video, one notification, one little burst of something. And now your brain has learned. Boredom? Phone. Awkward silence? Phone. Waiting? Phone. Feeling uncomfortable? Phone. Nothing happening? Phone. Eventually, you don't even experience boredom as something you simply tolerate. Your brain starts treating it like a problem that needs to be solved immediately. And your phone is always sitting there like, don't worry, I have 47,000 distractions. This is why you can check your phone while watching something you actually wanted to watch. You're not necessarily bored, you're just used to switching. Your attention starts looking for the next little thing. A message, a video, a notification, a new post, something, anything. And if nothing is happening, you check again. This creates a strange loop. You feel a tiny bit of uncertainty. You check your phone. You find nothing. For a moment, the uncertainty disappears. Then it comes back. So you check again. The phone doesn't have to reward you. Sometimes the checking itself becomes the behavior. And this is where it gets more personal. Because sometimes you're not checking your phone because you're bored. You're checking because you're hoping for something emotionally specific. A certain person's name, a reply, an apology, good news, someone asking where you are, someone noticing you, someone finally responding. And suddenly, the phone isn't just a device. It's a tiny doorway to emotional reassurance. That's why waiting for one particular message can make you check your phone constantly. You know there probably isn't a new message, but your brain doesn't care about probability very much in that moment. It cares about possibility. Maybe they replied. Check. Nothing. Maybe now. Check. Still nothing. And the more emotionally important the message is, the harder it can be to ignore that urge.
There's also something surprisingly uncomfortable about checking your phone. Sometimes you check it because you don't want to be alone with your own thoughts. You're lying in bed, no music, no video, no conversation, just you. And suddenly every thought you've been avoiding during the day becomes audible. So you reach for your phone, not because something happened, but because nothing happened. And nothing happening leaves room for your mind to speak. The phone fills that silence immediately. This doesn't mean every time you check your phone, you're secretly avoiding your emotions. But sometimes, the distraction is doing more than entertaining you. It's giving your brain somewhere else to go.
And here's the strange part. The more often you respond to that tiny urge, the more automatic it can become. You feel the impulse, you check, the urge goes away. That teaches your brain checking works. Not necessarily because you found something, but because you responded to the urge. So later, the same feeling appears, and your brain remembers what you did last time. Check. It's a little habit loop happening so quickly that you barely notice it. Cue, check, possible reward, relief or stimulation, repeat. Eventually, the conscious decision disappears. Your hand just moves. You unlock the screen, and sometimes you stare at it for a second and think, wait, why did I even open this? Exactly. You didn't necessarily make a decision. You followed a learned pattern.
But here's the part I find most interesting. You don't have to completely stop checking your phone. That's probably not realistic anyway. The useful shift is noticing the moment before the check, that tiny half second where you reach for your phone. Instead of immediately opening it, pause and ask, what am I expecting to find? Not, why am I so addicted? Not, why can't I have self-control? Just, what am I looking for? Maybe you're bored. Maybe you're waiting for someone. Maybe you're uncomfortable. Maybe you want stimulation. Maybe you don't actually know. And that tiny moment of awareness breaks the automatic sequence. Because now you're not just checking, you're observing yourself checking. And that's a very different experience.
The goal isn't to become the person who leaves their phone in a drawer and meditates peacefully while birds sing outside. You might still check your phone 10 minutes later. That's fine. The interesting part is understanding why your hand reached for it in the first place. Because your phone isn't necessarily the real problem. Sometimes it's the boredom underneath it. Sometimes it's uncertainty. Sometimes it's the hope of a message. Sometimes it's the discomfort of having nothing to occupy your mind. And sometimes your brain has simply learned that every quiet moment is an opportunity to look for something. So the next time you unlock your phone and realize there's absolutely nothing new, don't immediately think, why did I do that? Notice the tiny expectation that came before it. Because you might discover something strange. You weren't checking because something happened. You were checking because your brain thought something might happen. And once your brain learns to chase maybe, even an empty screen can keep you coming back. Maybe that's why the most addictive part of your phone isn't what's on the screen. It's the possibility that something could be. And honestly, that's a pretty powerful thing for a rectangle in your pocket to convince your brain of. If you want more psychology behind the weird things your brain does every day, subscribe to Psychology at 3 a.m.